Recently on Twitter, I saw this debate among filmmakers of whether or not to show dailies. And this is to actors, but it also implied and meant, reviewing footage during production, right, on set. And I want to offer up my perspective because, I make movies and I figured it might be helpful to some people out there. And so for me, as an indie filmmaker, the answer is, well, it depends, but generally no. And here's why. So I like to shoot very fast, and oftentimes I need to shoot fast, right? As indie filmmakers, and just as filmmakers in general, we are strapped for time, right? And time ends up being money. So anything that slows down actual shooting is, to me, a waste of time and unnecessary. So whenever I shoot, and there's been scenes that have been like a page and we've had like 30 minutes or something like that to shoot it. And yes, I shoot with multiple cameras, but I do end up getting multiple angles. And the reason for that is because we can be quick and, go. Part of that is because we're not reviewing the footage. I work with people that I trust and, I'm looking for the performances and, they're looking at it from the camera perspective of did we get it? And I can trust them to let me know, what, we need one more or not, right? So that's a key factor. And yes, there's times where there's a very specific shot that we know we need to get. Like, it's an integral thing. So, that's why I say it depends, because there's certain shots that, let me just make sure, let's both review that we're not insane and see if it worked, because it's so integral that without it, a major thing doesn't work. So those are instances where, yes, you have to, right? Now, as far as the actors and stuff like that, my general philosophy on that is, especially the way that I shoot, it tends to be a little bit disjointed. And, for me, I'm looking for more specific shots here and there. And so to just look at a daily of mine wouldn't necessarily make sense, right? Like you wouldn't be looking at it for the performance, because I'm looking at it for a very specific moment rather than the whole scene. And that can be disjointing for an actor and stuff like that. And so, it's not that I'm against it. It's just I don't always see necessarily the benefit of it. Now, of course, there's times when actors have asked me when we're filming, at the end of the day, can I see some of the footage and stuff like that, and I'll show it to them, things of that nature. But oftentimes too, the way I sort of film, sometimes, I'm employing a lot of tricks here and there. And so again, just seeing it is not always what you're going to get, because it has to be edited together to make sense, right? Because as I said, primarily we're getting a little bit of piece, here, and it's part of a larger whole. So, I don't want them to be discouraged by that. And because, some people, it's hard to wrap your head around that. And, when I first kind of began making movies, it was for me. I imagine, I don't know still to this day if I could do a movie. Maybe I would challenge myself, but a movie like Sin City, where, he's filming something completely against green screen and not all of the actors are there all at the same time, and, it all has to work and be framed in such a way. And it's just insane. If you watch the making of Sin City, the way that's put together is insane. And again, so if you watch the dailies, it's what is this? And yet you have to have the faith that it will work out. And so for me, especially on the indie level budget that I work on, yeah, it's it can be confusing. And, in that sense, I don't want people to lose faith in the project because they're seeing something that's not anywhere close to the end result. But if you work towards it, the end result will be magical. And I remember, with my latest film, A Bogota Trip, one of the first things that we did film was this green screen sequence. And it was so ridiculously silly. And Andrew Guy, he was such a blast to work with, and we were all just joking like, yeah, this is I guess what it must be like to film a Marvel movie, in some sense. And we shot it first because we knew that we needed the time to like really pull this off, in terms of what the sequence we were building, and we managed to do it, right? Like, it looks really cool in the movie. But again, if you just watch that, raw dailies, it's like, what is this? Because we had to like film top half of his body for one section, the bottom half of his body for another, and then splice it together. Like, it's utilizing so many tricks. Anyway, now going down memory lane, but that's why I say overall for me, it depends. If it's beneficial to the project, then sure. But for the most part, especially during production, it tends to slow things down. For me, instead, what I always offer up is like, to anybody that I work with on a movie, you're always welcome in the edit bay. Come on by and, see how it's all piecing together. Because that's where we start to plug in the pieces to make the whole of the puzzle, rather than in that moment seeing a very myopic view that doesn't reveal much, at least to me. So anyway, that's sort of my philosophy on the whole thing, but always curious to know how you approach it. That's the beautiful thing about just art in general. There's not necessarily one single approach that works. It's whatever gets the job done ultimately, and as long as you're not doing it in a toxic, heinous way, then go for it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.